So in the handout you received today from your teacher, there are 3 problems in the handout, and we're going to look at the first problem and the third problem today, and we'll come back at our next class meeting and talk about the second problem and then finish up lesson 1.3 and hopefully start lesson 1.4 as well. So this problem here is about giving medications. Our kidneys continuously filter out blood, removing impurities. Doctors take this into account when prescribing the dosage and frequency of medication. So the patient is given 16 milliliters of medication for every 1 liter of fluid for the first day. Suppose a patient's kidneys filter out 25% of the medication each day. Just make a table. You have room to do that. Make a table. And then it's asking you to figure out how much medication is in the blood after 9 days. So the first question is the medication being given every day, or is it just the first day the medication is given, and then there's a depletion of medication over time? So think about that question based on the information. Set the table so it looks something like what you're seeing here, and then go ahead and complete the 0 day and the 1 day. Turn the video back on and check this to make sure you have the right idea, and then finish off the table. When you're finished, turn the video back on. So based on the information, you are given 16 milliliters of medication the first day. And it says that your body is depleting 25% of the medication each day. There is no indication that any additional medication is given. So if I'm depleting 25% of the medication, then that means this is the percent that's left. So hopefully you look at this problem as a geometric problem involving 75% of the medication being left, not 25%. So you're going to take the 16 and you're going to multiply it by 0.75, since 0.75 is the decimal number for 75%. And so hopefully you got a first answer of 12. If you did, great. If not, think about the conversation here. Go back and make the changes in your table, and please complete the table for 9 days. So if you keep multiplying by 0.75, hopefully you got 2 days be 9, 3 days be 6.75, and if you continue, hopefully at the 9th day, you have approximately 1.2013. Again, we're skipping the second problem and we're moving on to the third problem. So some of you may have a swimming pool, so this problem involves trying to eliminate algae from a swimming pool. So Antonio and Deanna are working at a community pool for the summer. They need to provide a shock treatment of chlorine, and then they add 45 grams of chlorine each day after the initial treatment, and also each day the sun burns off 15% of the chlorine. So there are 2 things happening each day. The amount of chlorine in the water is being burned off at a rate of 15, and then they are also adding additional chlorine. So I like you to think about the problem, and why don't you do day 0 and day 1 and see what you come up with for your answer, and then turn the video back on to have additional discussion about this problem. So this problem is a lot like the car problem that we did previously, where you were doing a compounded monthly, and where the annual rate was 10%, and then once you figured out what the answer was in terms of interest by multiplying by 1.0083, and then we subtracted away the monthly payment of $250. In this problem here, where on the first day you're getting a shock treatment of 450 grams of chlorine, but during the day 15% of it is being burned off, which means that 85% of the chlorine is still in the water. So I'm getting that 85% by taking 100% and then subtracting away the 15% because that's what's being removed or burned off. And so that's going to leave me with 382.5 grams of chlorine in the water. So let's say we're doing this in a 24-hour period of time. So let's say, for example, we're starting, let's say at 8 p.m. is when they put in the shock treatment to begin with. And let's say at 8 p.m. the next day, they're going to add additional chlorine to the pool. And so let's say every 24 hours, what's happening is that 15% of the chlorine is being burned off. So that means 85% is left. And then they take that answer of 382, and then they go ahead and add in 382.5, and they're going to add in another 45 grams of chlorine. So if I add 45 to that, we're going to end up with 427.5 grams. So day 1, they did the shock. That gave us the 450. Then day 0. Then day 1 or U1. This is how much chlorine is in the water when they do that second treatment at 8 p.m. So think about what's going to be happening to get to the 8 p.m. on the next day. So we're going to go through the burning off process and then adding some new chlorine into the pool. So what would be the answer for U2, and then what would be the answer for U3? When you think you have the answers figured out, check your answers with at least one person in class, and then turn the video back on. I mentioned earlier that we're going to return back to the decimals activity. So on screen 9, this is the problem you're currently working on. And so I have a problem that's the table set up here so that you can actually put in your answers. And so the first answer was 450. And then we went through the finding about 85% of what was left, and then added in the next treatment. We found that answer to be 427.5 grams of chlorine. And so this is set up so that if you have the right answers for U2 and U3 and so on, that when you click on check your work, you'll get a thumbs up. If you see try again, that's telling you that you made a mistake, and you need to go back and revisit the problem. So I'd like you to complete this table for this problem. And then I'd like you to come to this problem here, and you're going to put in your answers. So again, we start with the 450 and then add 427.5. So I'd like you to continue that. And the graph itself, these are pretty large numbers, so you're going to have to zoom out or to get the numbers to be able to get to the entire graph in. So you're going to be zoom out will be a minus button on the far right. And you're going to try to get those points in and see what kind of the shape of the graph is going to be. And then the last problem, and these 3 problems are homework, not screen 9, 10, 11. If you look at the graph, do you think that this graph is approaching what's called a long run value? In other words, is it kind of leveling off, and it seems to be approaching some number that you don't think it's going to get below that? This is kind of like with taking medications. Your doctor is going to give you a prescription and ask you to maintain that prescription for a period of time. And the idea is you're going to build up that medication in your system, so it's going to kind of level off. So, and we're going to call that long run value right now. So can you identify what you think that value is going to be and enter it here? So, on our next meeting, we'll come back and we'll talk about this third problem and see what kind of questions you might have. I will be checking your responses using decimals. When you're done with the problem, all you have to do is just log out by you can click on the X at the top of the screen just to kind of close the window. Decimals will automatically save it, and then we'll take a look at this problem here on Tuesday of next week when we meet next.